Across the United States, there are still towns you can drive to, stand in, walk through, and touch with your own hands. But according to the systems that run the modern world, they no longer exist. They don't appear on delivery apps. They don't register on logistics maps. Emergency services reroute around them. And if you type their name into most GPS systems, you'll get a simple response. Location not found. This is not a glitch. It's policy. Because in the near future, existence is no longer defined by geography, but by data. And once a place falls below a certain threshold population, economic activity, infrastructure usage is quietly flagged, reviewed, and eventually removed. Not destroyed, not abandoned, just erased. The official term is Resource Optimization Zone Decommissioning. But the people who still live there call it something else. They call it disappearing. Ethan Cade works for the agency responsible for these decisions. He's not a field agent. He's not a politician. He's not even particularly important. He's a data analyst. Every day he sits in front of a screen reviewing clusters of numbers, population counts, utility usage, tax records, signal activity, patterns, trends, declines. When a town drops below viability metrics, it appears on his dashboard. At first it's just a flag, then a review, then a recommendation, and finally, a confirmation. One click, that's all it takes. After that, the process begins automatically. Maps update, databases sync, services withdraw, infrastructure support ends. Within weeks, the town becomes invisible to everything that matters. Ethan has processed hundreds of them. Small farming communities, mining towns long past their peak, rail stops that no longer connect anything to anywhere. Doesn't think about the people. That's not his job. Until the day a file appears that doesn't make sense. The town is called Halcyon Ridge, population 6, grid activity, minimal but consistent, water usage, stable, network signals, intermittent but present. By all metrics, it should have been removed years ago, but it wasn't. Instead, the system shows something unusual. Manual overrides, dozens of them. Small adjustments spread over time. Population counts corrected upward by 1 or 2. Utility usage slightly increased. Signal presence artificially maintained. Someone has been keeping this town alive, not physically, digitally. Ethan flags the anomaly. Normally that would trigger an automated audit, but this time the system responds differently. Manual verification required. Field assignment. He stares at the screen for a long moment. He hasn't left the office in 3 years. Halcyon Ridge is a 6-hour drive. By the time he arrives, the sun is already low. Someone has been keeping this town alive, not physically, digitally. Ethan flags the anomaly. Normally that would trigger an automated audit, but this time the system responds differently. Manual verification required. Field assignment. He stares at the screen for a long moment. He hasn't left the office in 3 years. Halcyon Ridge is a 6-hour drive. By the time he arrives, the sun is already low. Ethan parks near the center of town. There's no signal. His device flickers, searching, failing, retrying. For the first time in a long while, he is completely disconnected. He steps out of the car. The air is still. No traffic. No distant hum of infrastructure. No background noise of systems working behind the scenes. Just wind. And somewhere in the distance, a door creaks. He follows the sound. The general store is open. Inside, the shelves are half-stocked. Canned goods, dust-covered boxes, items that look like they haven't moved in years. Behind the counter, there's a man, late 60s, maybe older, calm, expecting him. "You're late," the man says. Ethan pauses. "You knew I was coming?" The man smiles slightly. Someone always comes eventually. Ethan pulls out his device, though it's still struggling to connect. "I'm here for a verification audit. This town should have been decommissioned." The man nods. "Yes, it should have. No resistance, no denial, just acceptance. That makes it worse. Ethan looks around. How many people are actually here? The man shrugs. Depends who's asking. The system? Or you? Ethan doesn't answer. Instead, he asks the question that matters. Who's been modifying the data? The man leans forward slightly. I have no hesitation. For how long? Since the first notice. That was 12 years ago. Yes, Ethan processes that. 12 years of small adjustments, tiny corrections, enough to keep the town above the threshold. Why? He asks. The man looks around the store. At the shelves, the door, the empty street outside, because this place still exists. Ethan's voice tightens. That's not how it works. The man tilts his head. No, he says quietly. That's exactly how it works. Just not in your system. Ethan steps outside again. Now that he's looking for it, he sees the signs. Footprints in the dirt. A curtain moving in a window. A light turning off just as he notices it. People are here, not many, but enough to be a town, enough to be real. He checks his device again. Still no signal. No connection to the system that decides what is and isn't allowed to exist. For the first time, the authority he represents feels distant, abstract, fragile. He walks back into the store. If I confirm this audit, he says, the town will be removed within 30 days. The man nods. I know. Emergency services will stop responding. I know. No deliveries, no infrastructure support, no official records. I know. Ethan hesitates. Why stay? The answer comes without delay. Because leaving doesn't mean existing either. Silence again. Heavy. Unavoidable. Ethan looks down at his device. One confirmation. That's all it takes. The system doesn't ask questions. It doesn't hesitate. It doesn't care. It just updates reality. He thinks about the hundreds of towns he's already erased. Places he's never seen. People he's never met. Lives reduced to metrics. And then, gone. But this one is different. Not because it's special, but because he's here. Because he can see it. Because he knows. His device flickers. Signal returning. Weak, but enough. The confirmation screen loads. Halcyon Ridge. Final verification pending. 2 options. Confirm. Delay. He stares at them. Behind him, the man says nothing. He doesn't need to. Ethan takes a breath. And then, he does something the system wasn't designed for. He edits the data. Population 6 becomes 9. Utility usage, minimal, becomes stable. Signal activity, intermittent, becomes consistent. Signal returning, weak, but enough. The confirmation screen loads. Halcyon Ridge, final verification pending. 2 options. Confirm. Delay. He stares at them. Behind him, the man says nothing. He doesn't need to. Ethan takes a breath. And then, he does something the system wasn't designed for. He edits the data. Population 6 becomes 9. Utility usage, minimal, becomes stable. Signal activity, intermittent, becomes consistent. Just acceptance. Halcyon Ridge continues to exist. Officially. Ethan lowers the device. The man watches him. Will that hold? He asks. Ethan nods slowly. For a while. They both understand what that means. This isn't a solution. It's a delay. A pause in a process that doesn't stop. Ethan turns to leave. At the door he hesitates. Someone will come again, he says. The man smiles faintly. Someone always does. Outside, the wind moves through the empty street. But now it feels different. Not like absence. Like something holding on. Ethan gets back into his car. As he drives away, the town disappears in his rearview mirror. Not erased. Not yet. Just still there. And somewhere deep inside a system that defines reality for millions of people. A small set of numbers has been changed. Barely enough to matter. Just enough to keep a place alive. For now.